Good afternoon, students. I am Dr. Damodari. Good afternoon, students. I am Dr. Damodari. Welcome to the pharmacology class. Today's topic is factors modifying drug action. The response of a drug may vary in different individuals, even when the same dose is used, or it may vary in the same individual in different situations. Why this difference in mechanism of action of drug occurs? It is because of various factors. Let us see what are those factors that modify the drug action. These factors are: number one, body weight, age, sex, species and race, diet and environment, route of administration and time of administration, genetic factors, dose, diseases, repeated dosing, psychological factors, presence of other drugs. So these are the various factors which modify the mechanism of drug action. Let us see each variations. Coming to the body weight. The average adult dose refers to individuals of medium build. The dose has to be calculated individually for the obese and underweight and also for the children. The dose of the drug can be calculated by depending upon the body weight using the Clark's formula. Clark's formula is individual dose is calculated by multiplying the body weight divided by 70 kg in kgs divided by 70 kg into average adult dose. See, the dose for the obese persons, if we use the same dose for the obese persons, we may not get the same effect as the average adult can perform. And in lean individuals and underweight individuals, what happened? The dose may be it may be increased, and the toxic effects we will get the toxic effects. The body surface area is a better parameter for more accurate calculation, but it is generally not used because of inconvenience. But it is used in children. The dose of the child can be calculated by using body surface area. The formula is body surface area in square meters by 1.7 into average adult dose. So we can calculate the dose and we have to give depending upon the body weight. Coming to the age. The pharmacokinetics of many drugs change with age, resulting in altered response in extremities of the age. That is, children and old people are more susceptible for the special adverse effects of the drugs. Let us see how it will modify the mechanism of drug action in children. Usually, newborn infants, the liver and kidney are not fully matured. The blood-brain barrier is not well formed. So, easy entry of unconjugated bilirubin into the brain will occur. It will leads to kernicterus. And the liver and kidney are not fully matured. Hepatic drug metabolizing system is inadequate in newborns. So, when we use chloramphenicol in infants, it will cause gray baby syndrome. The glomerular filtration rate of the newborn is low and the tubular transport is immature. So the T half of the drug is prolonged in children and infants. The gastric acidity is low and intestinal motility is slow. So it will alter the absorption of the drug. And in newborns and infants, the skin is very delicate and permeable to drugs applied topically. So there will be, children are more susceptible to special adverse effects of the drugs like suppression of growth when we use corticosteroids, and early fusion of the epiphysis occurs if we use androgens, and tetracyclines, they may cause discoloration of the teeth and decrease in metabolic clearance of drugs like chloramphenicol, barbiturates, pethidine, and salicylates seen in infants and children. So the dose of the child is calculated by using the formula, two formulas. One is Young's formula and the second one is the Dilling's formula. The Young's formula is child dose can be calculated by age in years by age plus 12 into adult dose. Whereas by using Dilling's formula, here we have to take age and adult dose divided by 20. So if we use this formula, we can calculate the actual dose which is sufficient to the child. So the children are more susceptible to special adverse effects of the drugs. So before using the drugs like corticosteroids, tetracyclines, androgens, we have to see these will not occur in children. And coming to the elderly, the blood circulation to the kidney and liver is decreased and renal function is progressively declines as the age advances. The GFR is 70% at the age of 50 years, 50% at the age of 75 years when compared to young adults. So drug dose has to be reduced in elderly people. Example, streptomycin daily dose used in young adults is 1 gram, whereas after 50 years the dose has to be reduced, that is 750 milligrams. After 75 years it has to be given in the dose of 500 milligrams. And the reduction in the liver microsomal activity in elderly people, so they are more prone to develop cumulative toxicity while receiving prolonged medication. And these are the drugs used to be with special care in elderly people. Example, NSAIDs, CNS depressants, antihypertensive drugs, diuretics, anticholinergic drugs, digoxin, and nephrotoxic drugs. Because of the impairment of blood supply to the liver and kidney, we have to use these drugs cautiously in elderly people. And coming to the sex, how sex can modify the mechanism of drug action. See, during the drug response may be different in women as compared to men because of hormonal changes. Example, morphine may cause CNS excitation before the sedative effect in women, and CNS stimulant effect of ephedrine is more in women when compared to men. And methyl dopa and clonidine may reduce libido in men. The effect of the same amount of alcohol is more in women when compared to men. Why? Because alcohol dehydrogenase, the enzyme which is responsible for the metabolism of the alcohol, is less in stomach in women. All these minor changes are not of much clinical relevance, but special care is necessary while prescribing drugs during pregnancy, lactation, and during menstruation. So let us see the purgatives. They will cause pelvic congestion and pelvic congestion, and if they are administered during menstruation, they may increase the menstrual blood loss. So purgatives should not be administered during menstruation. And coming to the pregnancy. In pregnancy, the gastric motility is reduced, so delay in absorption of orally administered drugs, and there will be fall in plasma albumin levels and increase in alpha acid glycoprotein. So what happens? The unbound fragment of acidic drugs are increased and the basic drugs is decreased, and there will be marked increase in renal blood flow. So polar drugs are eliminated faster in pregnancy. And there will be induction of hepatic microsomal enzymes. So the drugs are metabolized faster in pregnancy. And some drugs are contraindicated during pregnancy. Example, uterine stimulants like prostaglandin analogs and ergot alkaloids we should not use during pregnancy. Why? Because they may stimulate the uterus and leads to abortion. And the teratogenic drugs are contraindicated during pregnancy. The examples for teratogenic drugs are anti-cancer drugs, androgens and progestins, phenytoin, phenobarbital, carbamazepine, and anti-thyroid drugs. These drugs should be avoided during pregnancy. And coming to the lactation, the pH of the milk is 7, and maximum drugs which were taken by the mother are excreted through milk, but they will not show their effects because of they will secreted in milk in minimum concentration. But anti-cancer drugs, carbamazole and methimazole, these are the anti-thyroid drugs. Warfarin, AC inhibitors, amphetamine and methamphetamine, they are used cautiously during lactational period. Why? Because they may cause impairment of growth. The anti-cancer drugs may cause impairment of growth, carcinogenicity and immunosuppression in children. The feeding the infant who is breastfed. And carbamazole and methimazole, these are the anti-thyroid drugs. They will cause hypothyroidism in the infant. And the warfarin is the oral anticoagulant. It causes bleeding in the infant. And AC inhibitors like captopril, enalapril, used for the treatment of hypertension, they will cause hypotension in the infant. And amphetamine and methamphetamine are the CNS stimulants. They cause insomnia and CNS stimulant effect in the newborn if they are given during the lactation. And coming to the next factor, that is species and race. How species and race will influence the drug action. Example, the response to drugs may vary with species and race. Rabbits are resistant to atropine. The rabbits, they are having atropinase enzyme, and they are tolerant to atropine. And rats and mice are resistant to digitalis, whereas cats are resistant to curare. Coming to the race, some people, they are very resistant to some drugs. That means those drugs we have to use the drugs in higher doses to the races who are resistant to those drugs. Blacks need higher doses of atropine and ephedrine to produce mydriasis, and incidence of agranulocytosis with clozapine is higher in Finland people. Clozapine is an antipsychotic drug. So these races, they are if these drugs are used in these races, the drugs has to be given at higher doses. Otherwise, they won't show desired response. The next factor is the diet and environment. Exposure to insecticides, carcinogens, and tobacco smoke may induce microsomal enzymes because of the presence of polyhydrocarbons present in them. So there will be induction of the enzymes occurs. So metabolism of drugs is faster in those environments. And coming to the food, how diet will influence the response of the drug. Food may increase or decrease the absorption of the drug. Those drugs which are increased by food are spironolactone, albendazole, chloroquine, lithium, and riboflavin. And those drugs which are decreased by food are amoxicillin, rifampicin, tetracycline, and isoniazid, INH. So these drugs, they are influenced by the presence of food. Next is coming to the next one, that is route of administration and time of administration. Usually when we take the drug orally, it takes some time for its actions. It will take the more time to exert its actions, whereas when the drug is administered parenterally, it is having quicker onset of action. If we use the drug by IV administration, the onset is very quick when compared to IM administration. And occasionally route of administration may modify the pharmacodynamic response of the drugs. For example, magnesium sulfate. When magnesium sulfate it is taken orally, it shows its purgative effect. When it is used intravenously, it shows its CNS depressant and anticonvulsant effect. When it is used locally or topically, it reduces the local edema, and it is used in the form of enema. It reduces the intracranial tension. The second example is N-acetylcysteine. This N-acetylcysteine, when it is used orally and intravenously, it acts as antidote for paracetamol poisoning. When it is taken by inhalation, it acts as a mucolytic. When it is irrigated into the urinary bladder, it counters the cystitis caused by the cyclophosphamide. Cyclophosphamide is a anti-malignancy drug. It causes cystitis. So irrigation of N-acetylcysteine into the bladder will counters the cystitis caused by the cyclophosphamide. And coming to the time of administration. Time of administration is important. There are several diurnal variations in the body, that is circadian rhythm. That is, some hormones, they are secreted in the morning and some they are secreted in the evening. If we use the drug according to the circadian rhythm, it is known as chronopharmacology. The study of correlation of drug effects to the circadian rhythm is known as chronopharmacology. Example, secretion of glucocorticoids and testosterone are highest in the morning. So administration of the glucocorticoids in the morning will decrease the suppression of the hypothalamo-pituitary axis. And cholesterol synthesis is more during night. So if we give the drugs like statins in the evening, they will act more efficiently. And the third example is platelet aggregation is more likely in the morning. So aspirin is administered at night to prevent platelet aggregation. Why? Because platelet aggregation is more likely in the morning and higher incidence of the myocardial infarction and stroke is seen early in the morning. So to avoid these conditions, the aspirin has to be given at night to prevent myocardial infarction and stroke. And the allergic symptoms are more in the morning. So if we administer antihistaminics at night, they will subside the allergic symptoms in the morning. Symptoms of allergic rhinitis are worst in the morning. So if we give the antihistaminics at night, it will act more efficiently. Then next factor is the genetic factors. Variations in nucleotide sequence could result in differences in responses to drugs. Pharmacogenetics is the study of genetically mediated variations in drug response. Genetic variations could result in changes in pharmacokinetics or pharmacodynamics. Variations in nucleotide sequence could result in difference in responses to drugs, and pharmacogenetics deals with the monogenetic variants, while pharmacogenomics involves the entire spectrum of genes that could modify drug response. Let us see what are the pharmacokinetic variations. Oxidation of drugs. Metabolism of drugs occurs in liver through oxidation, acetylation, oxidation or hydroxylation. So some people, because of genetic polymorphism in cytochrome P450 enzyme, they are lacking of oxidation of drugs. So it will result in variation in the metabolism of drugs metabolized by these enzymes. Example, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, phenytoin and warfarin. These are metabolized by oxidation. The genetic polymorphism in cytochrome P450 will result in prolongation of action of these drugs. And coming to the acetylation, some drugs, they are metabolized by acetylation, and the rate of drug acetylation differs among individuals. Depending upon the rate of acetylation, the individuals are divided into slow acetylators and fast acetylators. The drugs like INH, sulfonamides, hydralazine and procainamide, they are metabolized by acetylation, and if they are used to the slow acetylators, they will metabolize more quickly, and the effects are, they won't show their effects for a longer time. So the dose has to be increased, or frequency of administration is increased when they are used in slow acetylators. And when they are used in fast slow acetylators, the dose has to be decreased. Whereas for fast acetylators, the dose has to be increased, and during the interval, the dosing, the repeated doses are required in fast acetylators, whereas in slow acetylators, it may act as when they are given in a single dose. Coming to the atypical pseudocholinesterase, succinylcholine. Succinylcholine is a skeletal muscle relaxant. It is metabolized by pseudocholinesterase, and the change in the some people, they will have atypical pseudocholinesterase. So what happened if the drug succinylcholine is administered into those people? The succinylcholine actions are prolonged, and it will lead to apnea. Due to persistent action of the succinylcholine. Coming to the pharmacodynamic variations, that is G6PD deficiency. Variations in receptors and enzymes will lead to adverse effects in and diseases. In pharmacodynamic variations, example, G6PD deficiency. Deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase in red blood cells leads to NADPH deficiency and resulting in accumulation of glutathione. So when these people, when we use primaquine, sulfonamides and quinolones, they will cause hemolysis due to deficiency of the G6PD enzyme. And coming to the next one is the malignant hyperthermia. It is genetically predisposed. Some individuals, they are genetically predisposed where there is a sudden rise in body temperature and severe muscle spasm due to release of intracellular calcium from sarcoplasmic reticulum, and this will lead to the malignant hyperthermia. So in those people, the drugs like halothane, succinylcholine, isoflurane and sevoflurane, these drugs will cause malignant hyperthermia in those people. So the dose has to be decreased while giving the anesthesia to those patients who will show malignant hyperthermia because of the genetic predisposition to these drugs. And coming to the third one is the hepatic porphyrias. Some people lack of an enzyme required for heme synthesis, and this results in accumulation and porphyrin containing heme precursors. So if in those individuals, if you use barbiturates, griseofulvin and carbamazepine, they induce the enzymes required for the porphyrin synthesis, and they will lead to porphyrias. So these drugs should be used cautiously in patients who will show hepatic porphyrias. These are some of the examples for genetic variations which will modify the drug action. Next, coming to the dose. How dose will modify the action? So usually when we increase the dose, we will get the increase in response, and this increase will occur up to attainment of the threshold level. After that, there won't be any increase in response, even we increase the dose. So some drugs, they will show differences in response. Example, in myasthenia gravis, neostigmine, it is the drug used for the treatment of myasthenia gravis, but at higher doses, if we give neostigmine at higher doses, it will again cause the muscle paralysis. And second example is vitamin D. Physiological doses promotes calcification of the bone, but if we increase the dose of the vitamin D, it will lead to the decalcification of the bone. So reverse of the physiological actions will occur with some drugs. This is the dose which will show modification of the drug action. And the next factor is diseases. Let us see how diseases will modify the drug action. Coming to the diseases, presence of certain diseases can influence pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics of the drug actions. In gastrointestinal diseases, example, gastrointestinal diseases, drugs are poorly absorbed in malabsorption syndrome, and absorption of ampicillin is reduced in celiac disease, but absorption of cephalexin and cotrimoxazole is increased in celiac disease. And achlorohydria decreases the absorption of aspirin. Aspirin is a acidic drug, so acidic drugs are more absorbed in acidic media. In achlorohydria, the acid is not secreted, so it will delay the absorption of the aspirin when taken by oral route. And coming to the liver diseases, rate of metabolism is decreased due to dysfunction of hepatocytes. The protein binding capacity is reduced due to low serum albumin levels. So the drugs like morphine, chlorpromazine produces prolonged effects in cirrhotic patients due to low serum albumin levels. And coming to the cardiac diseases, in congestive cardiac failure, accumulation and toxicity of propranolol and lignocaine due to decreased clearance because of decreased perfusion of liver and kidney. What happened in congestive cardiac failure? Edema of gut mucosa will occur, and the perfusion of liver and kidney are decreased. So they may result in accumulation and toxicity of the drugs like propranolol and lignocaine. The lignocaine, clearance of the lignocaine is decreased by 50% in congestive cardiac failure. And the MI patients are more prone to adverse reactions because of adrenaline and diastolis toxicity. And coming to the renal diseases, drugs mainly excreted through kidney or accumulate and cause toxicity in renal diseases. Example, streptomycin, amphotericin B, aminoglycosides, NSAIDs, all these are mainly excreted by the kidney. So the dose has to be reduced in renal diseases when we are using these drugs in presence of renal diseases. And coming to the thyroid diseases, that are endocrine diseases. Hypothyroid patients are more sensitive to the effects of drugs like CNS depressants, digoxin and morphine, whereas hyperthyroid patients are resistant to inotropic action of digitalis but more sensitive to its erythemic actions. And patients with benign prostatic hypertrophy are more susceptible to urinary retention with anticholinergic drugs. The anticholinergic drugs, if you use, urinary retention occurs, and if they are used in patients suffering with benign prostatic hypertrophy, the urinary retention is more. And this effect is also seen with tricyclic antidepressant drugs. And coming to the next factor, that is repeated dosing. So how repeated dosing will modify the drug actions? If we give repeated dose of the drug to the individual, it may cause cumulation, or it may cause tolerance, or it may cause tachyphylaxis or resistant. What is cumulation? Cumulation is accumulation of concentration of the drug. Drugs which are slowly eliminated by excretory organs may accumulate, resulting in toxicity. Examples are digoxin, heavy metals, and emetic. And coming to the tolerance. What is tolerance? When a large dose of a drug is required to elicit an effect ordinarily produced by its normal therapeutic dose, the phenomena is termed as drug tolerance. The tolerance may be true tolerance or pseudo tolerance. The other name for the pseudo tolerance is apparent tolerance. True tolerance. Coming to the true tolerance is, it may be natural or acquired. Natural means the species, some species, they are tolerate more larger amounts of atropine. The examples are rabbits. Rabbits can tolerate higher amounts of larger doses of atropine because of the presence of atropine esterase in the blood. So this is example for natural tolerance. And some race people, they are tolerant to some drugs. Example, blacks are more blacks need higher doses of mydriatics to produce mydriasis. So it is the example for the natural tolerance. Whereas acquired tolerance is because of the repeated administration of the drug. Examples are barbiturates, opioids, nitrates, and xanthines. They show tolerance if they are administered repeatedly. And this acquired tolerance may be tissue tolerance or cross tolerance. Tissue tolerance means some tissues, they show tolerance to the drugs, and some they may not show the tolerance. Example, morphine. Morphine is a opioid analgesic. It shows its tolerant effect to its sedative and analgesic activity, but it won't show its tolerant effect to its constriction of pupil and euphoric effect. This morphine, it exhibits its meiotic activity and constipating effect. So tolerance, the morphine may show tolerance to analgesic and euphoric effects, but not to meiotic and constipating effect. So the GI cells won't show tolerance. Tissue tolerance is confined to special tissues, not to all tissues. Coming to the barbiturates, barbiturates tolerance to its sedative effect, but not to its anti-epileptic activity. Coming to the cross tolerance, if an individual develops tolerance to a drug belongs to a particular group, he also shows tolerance to the other drugs from the same group. Example, alcoholics, they show tolerance to general anesthetics and barbiturates. This is cross tolerance. Coming to the mechanism of development of tolerance, the tolerance may be, the mechanism of tolerance is of two types. Either it may be pharmacokinetic or dispositional, or it may be due to pharmacodynamic or functional. Pharmacokinetic tolerance is repeated, the barbiturates, they will induce the microsomal enzymes. So what happens? Due to increase in microsomal enzymes, the metabolism of the barbiturates is faster and it shows tolerance to its sedative effect. And coming to the pharmacodynamic or functional tolerance, changes in target tissue makes it less responsive to the drug. That is example, morphine, alcohol, barbiturates, because of the downregulation of the receptors, or they may bind covalently with the receptor and dissociation from the receptor may be delayed. So these two are the mechanism of development of tolerance. And coming to tachyphylaxis, what is tachyphylaxis? Before tachyphylaxis, what is apparent tolerance or pseudo tolerance? Apparent or pseudo tolerance confined to oral administration only. The federal kings were much worried about poisons and they used to take small doses of arsenic by mouth, and this rendered them immune to oral arsenic poisoning. So the tolerance will develop to oral administration only. If the poison is given parenterally, they will show the toxic effects. This is due to local changes developed by the GI tract which prevent the poison from getting absorbed from the gut. And coming to the tachyphylaxis, what is tachyphylaxis? Tachyphylaxis is acute tolerance. That is normally tolerance, it will take some time to develop, but whereas in tachyphylaxis, repeated administration of ephedrine, tyramine, amphetamine and 5-hydroxyhistamine, they show tolerance. It is within minutes. So it is known as tachyphylaxis. Tachyphylaxis is acute tolerance. This ephedrine, tyramine and amphetamine, 5-hydroxyhistamine show tolerance within minutes. This is known as tachyphylaxis. In case of tyramine, it is due to depletion of the noradrenaline stores from the sympathetic nerves, whereas with ephedrine and amphetamine, without depletion of the noradrenaline stores. Coming to the resistance. Repeated administration of an antibiotic can result in reduced or no response to it. So it may be natural or acquired. The resistance may be natural or acquired. The natural example for natural resistance is gram-negative bacteria are resistant to penicillins, whereas gram-positive bacteria are resistant to aminoglycosides. This is the natural resistance. Whereas acquired resistance, it is because of the mutations. The gram-positive bacteria, if penicillins are given regularly, repeatedly, they will synthesize the enzyme, penicillinase enzyme, and these penicillins, they will not kill these bacteria, and these bacteria will develop resistant to penicillins. So we have to give penicillin, the anti-penicillinase enzymes, that is clavulanic acid, along with these penicillins to kill the bacteria which produces penicillinase enzymes. This is resistance. Coming to the next factor is psychological factors. The personality of the physician or personality of the patient may influence the mechanism, influence the drug actions. How personality of the physician and how personality of the patient will influence the drug action. If the patient is having faith in the doctor or the physician, even a placebo can show its results. Placebo is an inert substance. It is not having any active principle. It is, when it is used in conditions like myocardial infarction, if it is used in conditions like bronchial asthma and angina pectoris, these people will show response to the placebo if they are faith in the physician. The mechanism here is the placebo, it will not act, but it may release endorphins. So these endorphins are the responsible for the relief of pain during angina pectoris and relief in bronchial asthma. And next is the nocebo. What is nocebo effect? When an established drug fails to produce its therapeutic effect, it is referred to as nocebo effect. It is exactly opposite to that of the placebo effect. And substances commonly used as placebos are lactose, distilled water, multivitamin preparations. And these placebos, they are usually used in two situations: in clinical trials as control devices and to treat patients who doesn't require an active drug. And the response, the tranquilization effect of chlorpromazine is, in normal persons, we will get tranquilization effect with 50 to 100 milligrams, whereas in psychotic patients, we have to use in 100 milligrams to up to 500 milligrams. So these psychological factors, they may modify the drug activity. And last one is the presence of the other drugs. How presence of the other drugs will modify the action. That is, it may show additive effect, synergism, or potentiation, or antagonism. That is, additive effect, synergism, and potentiation, they will increase the response, whereas antagonism, it will decrease the response. This topic I have dealt in my previous class. So coming to the drug interactions, when the two drugs given simultaneously, these two drugs may cause drug interactions and modify the action. Example, diuretics and digitalis. Many diuretics, they cause hypokalemia. This hypokalemia may potentiate the digitalis toxicity. So when diuretics are used along with the digitalis, the dose of the digitalis has to be reduced. And organic nitrates and sildenafil. Organic nitrates, they increase the mechanism of action of organic nitrates are they increase the cyclic GMP levels and causes the relaxation of the blood vessels, whereas sildenafil, it inhibits the phosphodiesterase enzyme. The because inhibition of phosphodiesterase enzyme, there will be increased activity of the cyclic GMP. So when these two drugs are administered simultaneously, it will lead to severe hypotension and even sometimes it will lead to death. So the dose of the nitrates or sildenafil has to be reduced when they have to be used simultaneously. And next example is aspirin and warfarin. Aspirin is having antiplatelet activity and warfarin is an oral anticoagulant drug. If these two are used together, it will increase, they will increase the bleeding. So the dose of the warfarin has to be decreased when it is administered along with the aspirin. These are some of the examples for drug interactions. With this, I have completed the factors modifying the drug action. All of you go through the topic and refer the textbook. If you are having any doubts, please clarify with me. This is an important topic. You may get as essay question as factors modifying drug, or you may get as short notes, that is tachyphylaxis or genetic factors or individual factors. So thank you so much for bearing me. Thank you one and all.